Hello everyone, Papa Kenn here, and welcome to episode 5 of Discovering Once Upon a Time Reaction and Review. So, yeah, the last episode certainly left me ready to see what happens next. So let's get right into the 5th episode titled That Still Small Voice. So let's begin. I'm curious how much of what's going on here is actually a result of Regina, like Regina's influence over him.
You take that delusion out of my son's head and you crush it.
Okay, well that's some of the evil queen coming out for sure. I'm actually rather intrigued to find out what if anything is actually down there. Because her putting on the badge clearly caused the eruption. I mean, assuming with the curse. So what could have triggered it? Little shaky cam, little Star Trek crashing movements. I know, I'm ruining the illusion, I'm sorry.
I just can't get it out of my mind. That family.
Terrible way to go.
Oh, what? What happened?
Plague.
The next town over. We just passed through.
I knew they were rotten, but his parents are just pure friggin' evil. Oh God, those are the puppets from early. Oh my God.
Oh, look at that.
New puppets for the air. Papa!
Oh no.
Who are you?
Oh no. No.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, he's alive. Okay. Oh my God.
Find yourself in a custody battle. And you know how the court determines who is a fit parent? They consult an expert, particularly one who has treated the child.
Oh snap.
So, I suggest that you think about that. And you allow me to do my work. And let me do it the way my conscience tells me to.
Archie in the house! That was really lame, I apologize. God. That's just wrong. What is that? Is that like... Is that the goblet? Or like a goblet of sorts? I don't remember what that's supposed to be exactly. Dang it. Okay. Alright, and we're back. Sorry for the little cut there. I had to take a few moments to make sure I got a few things right. In particular, a couple of names that I wrote down wrong. So, I mean, it's the end of this episode definitely, at least for me, didn't hold as much of a like cliffhanger feel to it, like the Prince of, or the Price of Gold did. But it definitely has me intrigued and has a few it left me with a few questions. Maybe kind of a theory, we'll see. But yeah, let's get right into it with my favorite parts of this episode. And there are actually quite a few. The biggest favorite of it actually being that we got to see Jiminy Cricket's origins, at least as far as the Once Upon a Time universe goes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there are any real, like, origins to Jiminy Cricket in just the regular fairy tales. I could be wrong, and if I am, please do let me know, but to the best of my knowledge, like, all of this, what we experience here is original story. Or original mythology, I suppose you might say. But yeah, I really found it interesting. I do have some issues with it, but I'll get to those, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But moving on from there, my second favorite part of this episode was the fact that they pointed out, and I actually never thought about this before, I guess even during their night scenes, but there were no crickets in Storybrooke. And, I mean, it's such a small, innocuous detail, but, you know, if I go back and watch some of the other episodes, like when they have night scenes, you know, often for background noise, shows will have crickets going on, you know, some sort of background noise to sort of indicate that you're outside. But just the fact that there's no crickets, again, I never would have thought to listen for that. But again, and I'm most likely going to be watching through these episodes again with Jill, because she hasn't watched them yet. I'm actually going to see if there might have been anything, or if maybe they were... I can only assume that since they pointed it out in this episode that that's actually true. There weren't any crickets. So, yeah, again, I just found it to be really interesting aspect that is going to affect, you know, some parts of my viewing of future episodes, and, you know, definitely the ones that came before it. But moving on, my third favorite part of this episode was the mystery surrounding what Regina found. And it was that piece of glass shard, or I believe it's glass. And Henry also found a chunk of it down in the mines before it started collapsing in on him. Well, him and Archie. But yeah, I'll just leave that at that, and I'll touch on that again here near the end, but that's one part that really stuck out to me. It's just sort of the mystery surrounding what that is, or what that could be. But moving on, my fourth favorite part of this episode was actually just how impactful for me, again, for me at least, that the turns of the relationship with Archie / Jiminy and Henry took. It's like, because earlier in the episode, obviously, Archie is forced to sort of crush Henry's imagination and what he thinks is really happening, which just devastates Henry. And then when we come around to the end, Henry not only helps Jiminy find his conscience again, and which leads to another one of my favorite parts, but it felt like their relationship grew in a lot of ways, and that's despite the fact that they've been spending so much time together, again with Archie being his therapist. So yeah, I just really enjoyed that aspect. Again, didn't particularly enjoy, obviously, when poor Henry's heart got crushed, but just the way that worked, and just how impactful and emotional that was. But moving on, my fifth favorite part of this episode just has to be the continuation of the relationship between Mary and David, aka Snow White and James? I think that's his real name. Yeah, James. Pretty sure. But yeah, it's leaving me really interested to find out how that's going to evolve over time. Really interested to find out what's going to happen with those two. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they are going to end up back together, but just seeing how the relationship works in Storybrooke, especially with David having, his wife there, Catherine. I don't know. I'm interested to see what's going to happen there. And of course, we had the last moment, or one of those ending moments, where Mary put in her resignation as a volunteer. Obviously, her own conscience getting the best of her and not wanting to, damage the relationship between David and his wife. As far as the land without magic goes. I'm still trying to remember the correct terms for it. But yeah, I mean, deep down I have a very strong feeling that Mary and David / Snow White and James / Prince Charming will end up back together. Call that a theory if you want, because I don't actually know if it's going to happen. We'll see. But moving on from there, my sixth favorite part of this episode definitely had to do with just Rumpelstiltskin, or as I am going to be calling him from now on, Rumpy, because I like that name. That big butts in a cat. Anyway, I'm sorry. But the deal between Jiminy and Rumpy, and when he gets that little vial of what looks like it could be that elf oil, but is in fact this horrible, curse potion that I honestly do wish had gone to Jiminy's parents. Which actually brings me to, it's technically a favorite part, but I suppose you would just say it's more of a very interesting part of this episode, and that's the fact that Jiminy's parents are just flat out evil. Like, even when we've seen, the evil queen in the land of magic, for the most part, she's just like pure evil, blah, 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 this is mine, we have at least seen some moments of empathy from her. We have seen some moments where we actually felt bad for her, where, she was struggling with the thought of having to kill her own father. Now, obviously, she got over those feelings, but at the same time, there was that showing of empathy, or even at least some form of sympathy from the evil queen. However, Jiminy's parents, dear God, they're just flat out sociopaths. They don't give a crap about anyone except for themselves and money. And I even leave that question up to whether or not they actually cared about Jiminy beyond the fact that he would help them in their ruse. And yeah, just they're pure evil. and unless I'm mistaken, didn't they actually laugh when they found the parents as puppets? I cannot believe that happened. Oh, and then my realization of what those puppets were and where they came from. Even now, just thinking about it is giving me chills. Gah. I don't know. I hope something is able to reverse that at some point throughout the story. Most likely not, unfortunately, but can always hope, right? But yeah, Jiminy's sociopathic parents are just pure evil. And I really hope that at some point throughout watching the show, that we get a little revisit of them and they get a very cruel, painful death. I know that's horrible of me, but they're horrible people. But anyway, that actually brings me to my last favorite part of this episode, right at the end, and it's when, and revisiting one of the things I said earlier having to do with Archie and Henry's relationship, it's when Archie stands up to Regina. And, I was impressed enough to, he was standing up to her, and it's like, he just didn't give a crap. But then he brought up the idea of a custody battle. And no lie, chills went through my spine when he said that. In a, he's standing up for himself. Like, the way it was executed almost kind of sounds like it could have been, kind of an evil person saying it. But obviously it wasn't. He was standing up for himself. He was showing power. He was showing the strength of his conscience. And just that line, just, so strong and powerful. I absolutely loved it. You could sort of say it's maybe an unofficial quote for this episode, because it's not the one I wrote down. But, just such a good line. Such a good monologue, really. I mean, the entire thing, the entire monologue between Archie and Regina, or rather, just Archie talking to Regina. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, that does bring us to my annoyances with this episode, and I do have two. And I don't know, you could, as always, these are things that bug me in particular. You may see them as no big deal, but again, I'm the one watching and reviewing this, so that was childish, I apologize. But my first annoyance is the fact that we really don't get any transition of Jiminy from child to middle-aged adult, or at least he seems middle-aged adult. It seemed rather strange that they didn't at least have some sort of middle ground. Like, what was life like with the parents when he was a teenager, when he became an adult, and then when he was middle-aged. I don't know, it just, something about that felt off. Just the immediacy of Jiminy going from a little kid to a middle-aged man. It just, and the parents didn't look any different either. It's like maybe there was something I missed. Maybe they added some extra makeup to make them look older. I don't know. But, like, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that, I don't know, like 25, maybe 30 years have passed since that first scene with young Jiminy. They would have changed visibly a lot. And again, just in my opinion, it didn't seem like they really changed a lot in appearance from that first scene to the last one we actually saw them in. So, yeah, the aging, I guess it's not just Jiminy's aging, but the aging of Jiminy and his parents. Just, it didn't seem to really coincide and make sense in the end. Again, to me, I could be wrong, but that's my feelings. And that brings us to my final annoyance with this episode, and that is just what they were pulling on the couple, the little boy's parents. It was such a clear ruse. Just nothing about it really felt authentic or real. And I just, trying to think of a way to put this. I know that, like, during that period of time in which, a lot of the fairy tales took place, sort of medieval times, there were plagues, there were sicknesses. So there was a lot to worry about as far as, getting sick. I mean, you could just get something as simple as a fever and die, potentially. But when you throw in the idea that, one, this family has only like a very small amount left, and they're making you trade all of your possessions, save your bed and the fireplace, which can't be removed from the house, just, it feels off. And I know, it's just like, it's part of the story, but it just didn't feel right. It felt like they could have done something maybe a little bit more realistic, or even just, traded it for a lot of their money. Like, just traded it for their money, or maybe like, something precious to them. I don't know. But not all of their stuff. That just felt, again, off, and to me, at least, just felt like it was such a clear, just such a clear and not really, a good trick at all. I don't think any of that sounded right the way it came out, but it worked in my head. But anyway, yeah, so I wasn't a fan of the way that the ruse, however you pronounce it, was executed. So yeah, but those were my annoyances, and as always, if you have any of your own favorites or annoyances with this episode that you would like to voice, please do feel free to do so in the comments down below. That brings us to my quote of the episode. And the quote I found here was actually really simple, and it actually comes from Henry, and it's just the simple line, "This can't be all there is." And obviously that was in response to Archie asking why it's so important for him to prove, that, these fairy tales are true, that the curse is real. And that line in particular stood out to me because I feel like, and I know at least for me, but I feel like a lot of people really, like, they think that possibly throughout their entire lives. Some people, just like, some people thinking, this can't be all there is. And that could be on a metaphysical plane, that could be on a literal plane. It can go to so many wide areas with that simple thought. But it's a line that I honestly feel connects with a lot of people, in that this can't be all there is. And again, it's like I'm one of the people that would definitely live up to that idea that, outside of the thoughts of religion and all that, just, there's people that don't believe, there's people that believe in a form of an afterlife, or ghosts, or metaphysical things, supernatural, and even aliens in outer space. It's like, there's people that believe these things, and when they at least even allow for the idea to be in their heads a little bit, basically it comes down to, this can't be all there is. There must be something more. And yeah, I mean, you could debate all of that over and over again, especially when it comes to religion, which don't. But again, it's like, that's just one of the, honestly, I feel like it's one of the best lines that helps encapsulate the feeling of this show and just people's lives in general, that this can't be all there is. That's one of the reasons why we have imaginations. That's one of the reasons why we write stories. One of the reasons why we exaggerate, different things. So yeah, there you go, my quote of the episode. And always do feel free to leave your own quote in the comments down below. I'd like to hear what some of your favorite lines might have been. Again, with the confrontation of Archie to Regina being an unofficial favorite quote of the episode. But let's see here. Songs, again, nothing really major. The music was beautiful as always. I don't know, maybe when it comes to the end of the first season I can find a soundtrack and I can think of some certain ones, but as it stands, I just got nothing. But it does bring us to my questions/theories. And really, I feel like I'm just going to sort of bundle these into one from now on, because to a degree, I feel like a lot of these questions are theories in and of themselves. So, my first question is that, and I don't know if this is just because of the acting for the, rather the actress for the woman that plays Regina / the evil witch, or I'm sorry, the evil queen. But is Regina a different person after the curse? Yes, she remembers the land with magic. She remembers what happened before the curse. I mean, that much has been made quite clear. And again, I did point out that in the previous episode that, I kind of got a little bit mixed up about that. But she, in addition possibly to Mr. Gold, remember what happened before. But given the way she authentically cares for Henry, again, at least appears to. Henry made a comment about that he thinks that the curse is making her think that she cares about him, but she really does authentically seem to care about Henry. She seems to have these, like, even though she's a very, in-your-face person, she isn't making any friends, certainly. But, I just can't help but wonder whether or not the curse actually changed her as a person. Or maybe there are two completely separate personalities, like, sort of at battle with her. Kind of like a Gollum situation, but not really. And it's just the evil queen side of her does remember what happened before, but Regina is this other, more human side of her personality that kind of wins out, especially when it comes to Henry. And again, her seeming to authentically care for him. I don't know, the caring for him could be a complete lie, could be something she does just to keep the ruse up, I don't know. But that's my question, is like, is Regina a different person after the curse? And that actually brings me to my final question, which again has to do with whatever it was that came out of the mines / the piece that Henry found in the mines. And it's because when Regina dropped that piece that she found into the grate, it landed among other pieces of whatever it came from. And it seems to me that for some reason I'm imagining sort of like this glass, can't think of the right word, cauldron. That's the word. Sort of like this large glass cauldron. Because again, I feel like something like that might have appeared earlier in the show, or maybe I'm just completely imagining it. But I feel like whatever it is that was in the mines that exploded, shattered into many different pieces, it obviously contains some sort of magical power. Or maybe it was, I don't know, like one of the keys that holds the curse in place, maybe. I don't know, I mean, the reason why I think that is the fact that, again, when Anna put on the badge, that's exactly when it happened. That's exactly when the explosion occurred. Again, when I assume the goblet or the cauldron, whatever it was, exploded, causing the cave-in. So, I don't know, I feel like there are certain aspects that keep changing over time, and maybe there are certain, maybe a key's not the right word, but sort of a lock, something that locks the curse in place. And every time Emma does something, did I say Anna earlier? I meant Emma. But every time Emma does something that moves the town forward toward breaking the curse, maybe there will be, some more impacts like this. Like, there could be other explosions. There could be other things that shatter or break out of nowhere. I don't know. It's like breaking the curse. But again, that's just a theory / question. If any of it's right, don't tell me. Leave the spoilers out. Watching you. But alright. And that's honestly all I really have to say about this particular episode. Oh, and I did enjoy the fact that they showed Geppetto. I'd actually forgotten who that character was, but I remember from it was from one of the first 2 episodes, may have been the first episode, that we actually see Geppetto, there. So I didn't connect the faces at first, but the fact that Jiminy and Geppetto are close friends, I just find that absolutely awesome, and just a really enjoyable part of the story overall. But alright, that brings us to the end of That Still Small Voice. Hope you all enjoyed this reaction / review, and that actually brings us to The Shepherd, the next episode that I will be reviewing / watching for your enjoyment. And I'm interested to see whether or not the shepherd is sort of like a literal shepherd. Like maybe we get Aesop from Aesop's Fables, and like the boy who cried wolf, who was a shepherd, I think, or if they're maybe just talking more in a symbolic sense, something along those lines. But alright, I've rambled on long enough, everyone. I will see you next time for the next episode, and until then, later days.